Hey team, you're about to experience my interview with Ron Jacobson. Ron is the co-founder and CEO of Rockerbox. Rockerbox is a multi-touch attribution and modeling platform for modern e-commerce and omnichannel brands. And with increasing privacy across the internet and limited look back and look through attribution data for modern marketing channels, it is becoming increasingly difficult for marketers to determine which channels are performing the best for them. Rockerbox helps with this exact challenge. Enjoy. This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. We have another cracking episode lined up for you today, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Ron Jacobson from Rockerbox to the podcast. Welcome, Ron.
Awesome. Good to meet you, Jason. Excited to be here.
It's super nice to meet you too, man. Now, I'm originally from Southern California on the West Coast. You're from New York on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Born and raised in New Jersey, but there you go. Brooklyn's almost more popular than New York these days. Manhattan. Yeah, living in Brooklyn.
Nice, good stuff. And you were mentioning just before we went on air that you're not getting a whole lot of sleep lately because you just had a baby.
This is true. I think he's 19 days old right now, so still in the teens. It's a whirlwind, but it's been fun.
Exciting times, man. Well, congratulations on having, because you said it was your first little one too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's my first and lots to learn. And I said it before, but I'll say it again. It's a whirlwind.
They say, I don't have kids. They say that there's nothing that can prepare you. You can read all the books, you can watch all the videos, you can do whatever you like, but until you actually have one, you don't really know what you're in for.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to my wife. She's done a lot of research and has a lot of friends, and she's the one who keeps, if it wasn't for her, Leon, our son, would really be struggling. So thank God for her. But personally, yeah, I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
It's good stuff. I guess you have some training in the unknown by being a co-founder and CEO of a tech company in the e-com space. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about a little bit about your background. You're product manager of AppNexus previously. For the last 10 years, you have been running, as I said, co-founded and have been running Rockerbox. So before we even get into the tech and what it does and how it does it, how did you even come to be working in this e-com tech marketing space?
Yeah, listen, somewhat by chance. I was at AppNexus, amazing company. I joined when there were 45 people. I left when there were 350. I saw that amazing hyper-growth period of a startup. They raised $250 million, just crazy hiring, crazy scaling, just a prototypical startup journey that everyone thinks about. I met my co-founder there, full spectacular, smart dude. But it got to a point at around 350 people where I looked at myself and realized that the problems from scaling from 350 to 1,000 are just very different than 45 to 300, and frankly, very different than 0 to 45. And one day just looked at myself and said, let's do this. I talked to Rick and we jumped ship and started Rockerbox. I wish I could say that I knew exactly where we would end up when we started the business, but that's completely a lie. We actually first started off making a women's mobile fashion app. And if you could see how I dress, you would know that I should not be running a mobile fashion app, let alone for women. We quickly pivoted out of that. And we had our first real success in our first business line where we actually ran and managed ad campaigns for brands. Did that for around 5 years. And we saw firsthand how painful it is to spend ad dollars without knowing what's working, with kind of flying blind. Poor measurement, poor attribution, the kind of legacy V1 attribution companies all, frankly, were inadequate. That's exactly what led us to launch Rockerbox Attribution Platform 4.5 years ago. Fast forward today, that's overtaken our whole company. We're the leading attribution measurement provider for B2C brands, and all, again, based off barely raising any capital, just really grinding it out based off revenue and customers. So it's been a different path than we took at AppNexus.
Wow, it's a super exciting story and background, and I guess shows the need and necessity to pivot quickly. If you're going to fail at something, fail fast, fail early, admit it to yourself, and then pivot. And that's how you found success with Rockerbox, which is I guess it's a classic founder story that when they've had to pivot at some point along their journey.
Yeah.
If I understand your technology correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, this whole time, I guess you've almost come into your own in the sense that with the death of third-party cookies and the iOS changes and the Facebook changes and just really broadly speaking, the umbrella of privacy changes across our entire industry, they've accelerated. We're starting to see real challenges for most brands to be able to figure out what percentage or where or what channel their marketing spend is actually having an impact. And we see other platforms in the market that are perhaps well known to our audience. You've got Northbeam, you've got Triple Whale, you've got plethora of
Yep.
marketing attribution platforms out there. So it is a very competitive space.
Yep.
But at least as far as I can tell, and I'll be honest with the audience, I've never used your platform before, but at least as far as I can tell from the information around your platform, you guys combine some pretty unique functionality that is typically only found in 2 or 3 separate pieces of software, and you bring it together quite holistically in Rockerbox, which is, okay, you've got this multi-touch attribution model. We can talk about that a little bit, and how you start getting some of your measurements without cookies, etc. But then you also bring in some of these very clear, what we would consider marketing mix modeling models that also help to clarify attribution in absence of really clear channel specific attribution. And so this is, I think, to me, that's probably the most exciting part about your platform, is that you have this more traditional multi-touch attribution or digital attribution model, but then you blend that in with some of the more traditional marketing mix modeling technology as well.
Yeah, listen, you hit on many good points. I'd say, just stepping back, it's just an unbelievably interesting time in the marketing measurement world. You nailed it. It's getting harder than ever to track your marketing, to know what's working, to know what's not. Third-party cookie deprecation, Apple changes. Marketers they're spending more on channels that are harder to measure too. It's not just everything being run through Google or Facebook. You have direct mail, you have linear TV, you have YouTube. Just marketers need to go more and more up the funnel to also build their brand. Mind you, that's being pulled back a little bit based off macroeconomic things, but it's just a fascinating time where it's harder to track than ever, it's harder to measure than ever, and client and brands need to spend on channels that are also harder to track. So when you add all those things together, it's just like exponentially more difficult than ever to actually know if you're spending dollars in the right location. Selfishly, that's been really good for me. It means there's more and more demand than ever for companies like Rockerbox that can provide clarity, can provide vision, and can help companies ensure that they're not spending their ad dollars incorrectly. I'm in a really fortunate position where I don't care where my customers spend their dollars. I don't care if they spend more or less. I don't care if they double down on Facebook or cut from Google. All I care about is that their business is growing. If that happens, we're in business, no pun intended. And it gives us just a really cool, unique vantage point. As it relates to how we think about marketing measurement, it's funny, on the side, you're completely right. Like, what's old is new again, somewhat being catalyzed by some of these privacy changes. But I actually think, more stepping back again, more broadly, what I'm seeing across our most sophisticated clients is the realization that every single type of marketing measurement is flawed, and every single type of marketing measurement also has pros. So like, you can either try to pretend, hey, all I'm going to use is M, or all I'm going to use is MTA, or all I'm going to use is experiments, or all I'm going to use is surveys, and try to pretend that's a panacea. But we all know intellectually that's false. And I actually think this is the first time where, with a company like Rockerbox, marketers can have their cake and eat it too. They can have MTA and M and experiments and surveys and benchmarks. And they spent a ton of time, energy, and money to build a SaaS platform that enables all that. But I think it's going to be table stakes in the future. Anybody who's pitching, this is the right way, our way is the best, everything else sucks, they're pitching their book. My only book is, you need all different types of measurements, so you have the right tool for the right job. It's a really hard problem to solve, though, because effectively every type of measurement is a company. So we're building 5-6 companies in one at Rockerbox. But that's what makes us fun.
Such an interesting mindset and concept that you have in place there, because it feels to me, so I've got a very close friend of mine who's a commercial airline pilot, and he said, he's been a pilot for 30 plus years, and he said, we have the Swiss cheese theory of safety in commercial air travel. And that is that we might have a hole or a challenge or a problem or something that might even break down in flight, in one flight control system, or in one engine, or in one of our radar systems, or whatever. But the thing is that we always have redundancy. We always have backups. And so it's like when you look through the side of a block of Swiss cheese, you might see a hole, and you might even be able to stick your finger in it, but you're going to hit another piece of Swiss cheese. You're not going to be able to stick your finger all the way through the Swiss cheese. And the whole idea behind that and airline travel is that we've got a level of safety, a level of redundancy, that those holes in the Swiss cheese never fully line up. So we've always got that safety net there to ensure that we can get from point A to point B safely for us and for our passengers. And it feels very much like you've taken that similar approach to marketing attribution. We know that no attribution model is perfect. It's always going to have holes. It's always going to have gaps. Some things are going to slip through the cracks. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the Swiss cheese model. We're going to have these layered redundancies, these safety nets, to make sure that we're giving at least as complete a picture as we possibly can at any given point in time.
Yeah, and listen, we're obviously not in the business of keeping humans safe on planes, so it's slightly less matter of life and death,
Life.
but it's matter of life and death for our clients, our customers. They every day have to make a decision: where do I spend this next dollar? Do I cut my budget? Do I spend more? And if they spend the money incorrectly, candidly, they can go out of business. Like, we take the problem really seriously, and because of that, we just think it's the right thing to do to recognize, yeah, there are those holes in the Swiss cheese. Let's not pretend that doesn't exist. There's something like running geo-based experiments. It's a great tool to do. Companies should do it. But we also need to be honest and recognize that no two DMAs are the same. That's okay. It doesn't mean it's perfect, but let's just know the flaws behind it and figure out how do we compensate for those flaws. There's an actual revenue hit to running geo-based surveys. You're not serving dollars in a certain geo over a certain period of time. So you don't necessarily just want to run them every single day, every single month, every single quarter. Having said that, our customers are running experiments. They're using our MMM, media mix modeling tool. They're complementing that with MTA for day-to-day optimizations. They're listening to their customers with surveys. And you find amazing instances where all these different measurement methodologies tell the same story. That's rare. But you also find instances where they tell different stories. And that's exactly where you double click and try to figure out, why is my MTA saying that YouTube is not performing well, whereas my M is saying it's performing very well? And that's exactly the sort of problem we want companies to encounter, rather than trying to push it underneath the rug and pretend that's not going to happen. So I just think it's like the more intellectually honest way to approach marketing measurement. And we've been seeing great success doing it so far. Yeah.
Super exciting. Now, two questions that naturally drop out of everything you just said are two things. One is, did you always have this vision of having these multiple models that you were running across, and I guess data inputs and data sources? Did you always have this vision, or did you start out with MTA, multi-touch attribution, and that was the core of the platform? Then you layered on market mix modeling later. I guess first, that's my first question. I'll get to my next question later. But did you always have this measurement view of the world that understood that there were going to be gaps, and you launched with multiple attribution models right from day one, or did you layer those on over time?
We layered out over time. Yeah. So our foundation was originally a path to conversion, multi-touch attribution first measurement approach. What we realized, though, was to do MTA, it's interesting. Everyone thinks first about the measurement methodology, but really fundamentally, there's a whole data story underneath it that enables you to do measurement, right? You can't construct a path to conversion unless you have spend for every single marketing channel, both online and offline, going back years. Now, once we had to go build that technology to capture every single marketing touch point, to ingest and centralize every single dollar of ad spend, and that's actually a really hard problem, by the way, because it's not just hitting APIs, it's pulling in log files from direct mail vendors and linear TV vendors, and literally knowing that somebody paid an influencer via Venmo, CPA. Like, if there's a lot of dollars that get spent. When we looked at ourselves, we realized two things. One, our customers were taking our data and building on top of it other types of measurement. So that was the first kind of indication that, you know what, they're looking for a different type of measurement. But the second part that was cool is they're using our data to do it. And that's really when we realized to ourselves, you know what, rather than thinking about Rockerbox as an MTA company, we have a data foundation with different measurement modules on top of it. And that's also super powerful because it allows brands to step in and step out with the right type of measurement for what the main problem is for them right now. You don't need to use the same tool for every single job. With Rockerbox, it makes it really easy. You know what? We're investing a lot more in upper funnel. We want to focus on that. Maybe we're going to double down on it today. But also, you can have them all at the same time. So I think it's just a much more friendly way for a measurement company to work with brands, and really pays on top of that data foundation that we've built. And by the way, even that data foundation is a product line by itself. We have a lot of customers who are just leveraging that as an input because they want to build their own custom models on top of Rockerbox also, which, that's a great use case for us as well.
And what percentage, you may not know the exact percentage, but just off the top of your head, roughly, what percentage of the merchants you work with are omnichannel merchants versus, say, pure play digital e-commerce merchants? So which ones will have retail store? What percentage would have a retail store estate, maybe even field sales rep, but perhaps maybe they're selling on marketplaces in addition to an owned website? How many of them are omnichannel, or they might even be selling through social as well, through Facebook shops, things like that?
It's a great question. I would say at least 40% are omnichannel, a lot of retail. Particularly, I'm in Williamsburg. You go 5 blocks up, there's like a couple of blocks where I'm just walking. I'm like, that's our customer, that's our customer, that's our customer. It's pretty awesome in that regard. So we have a lot of clients selling to their O&O retail. We do measurement for that too, by the way. We have a lot of clients that are also starting to sell on Amazon. We have some clients. Meta Shops has not come up as much, a little bit, but I think especially looking forward, we're hearing this more and more. our clients are looking to diversify where they sell. They don't just want to be selling on their own property. It's a bit of a reverse of the tale for the past couple of years where everybody was direct to consumer, drive folks to our websites. That's the top priority. I think now everyone recognizes in a way, direct to consumer is not a strategy. It's not a company strategy. It's a distribution strategy. And in a way, we're hearing from our customers, they have to meet their customers where they are. And that's fine for us. That also leads to different types of measurement that work better than others. For Amazon, oftentimes using more of a marketing mix modeling approach combined with some survey data. For retail, we are able to do full path to conversions. Again, pros and cons of every methodology. And that's why I think it's great that we don't have to pretend that this one thing is truth.
And from what I can tell, you also provide all the data warehousing capability directly within your own platform. So you're pulling data down from all these different sources. I'm guessing you're pulling down data from Meta, from Google, from perhaps their ERP, maybe from their e-com platform, maybe from their POS system. The data could be coming from almost anywhere, and you aggregate it together in your platform. So that way you're not having to make all these real-time calls to all these systems every single time they want to run a report. You pull the data down maybe on a cron or something like that. You ingest it into your data warehouse, where it then becomes almost like a static piece of data that you can run all your reporting and layering and analysis on top of, and you hold all that data inside directly in the core platform. So I'm guessing that that takes stress off of their transactional systems from a data perspective, but it also means that the speed and performance of your platform when you're generating these types of reports must be significantly faster, because effectively you can chuck all these things in an index.
Yeah, so much to go over there. So yes, we ingest across hundreds and hundreds of platforms, your core, your Facebook, Google, Bing, et cetera, et cetera. We're ingesting all of their data. We call those platform performance data sets. What that means is like literally pulling the exact data that those platforms are reporting into Rockerbox. Super important because we want our customers to be able to compare and contrast what is Facebook's self-reported CPA against Rockerbox's cross-channel CPA. We make those available side by side. That's kind of a commodity data set in some capacity, though, especially when you get to those core API-based ones. If you go like one step removed, it becomes a lot harder. That's when you start getting to your programmatic ad channels, the Trade Desk and Criteo and Teads and Mountain and Tatari, very popular vendors used by clients, but not your classic standard API that every vendor is integrating with. And Rockerbox has to get all that data as well. Go down a level further, you start getting to your real long tail. Again, like your linear TVs, your direct mail vendors. We have clients who will work with a random mom and pop direct mail vendor out of Minnesota, and we need to be able to ingest that data. So that's a combination of ingesting data via API, via batch file that's being dropped off by us, via webhooks that are pushed to us. And that's just ingesting the self-reported data from those platforms themselves. You then actually have a whole different series of data, which is called Rockerbox constructed data sets. So that's where we actually construct a customer's path to conversion. It requires us to understand everything happening on the client's website. We do that with our own first-party pixel. It requires us to try to capture view-based data as much as possible. And again, that's also not available off the shelf. You're not pinging Facebook's API and telling me, hey, tell me every single customer that you served an ad to that viewed the ad but didn't convert, and give me all the email addresses back. That it's just not available. So to do view through data, it requires a combination of modeling, where we do that on top of aggregate data sets from companies like Meta and for linear TV as well. It requires us striking strategic partnerships. We've done this with Pinterest, we've done this with Reddit, we've done this with Snapchat, where we get access to view through data to better measure their channel. And this, again, all comes into how do we construct a user level path to conversion. More in the Rockerbox constructed data sets requires identity resolution, cross-device connecting based off first-party identifiers, the whole 9 yards. But to your actual question, that data we make available to our customers into their warehouse. And this is where it becomes super powerful because our customers, listen, similarly to D2C brands, they need to meet their customers where they are. Our data needs to be where we need to meet our customers where their data needs to be. If their CMO, if their CEO, if their CFO are logging into Looker every single day, if Rockerbox data is not there, it doesn't really matter. But frankly, they need the data that we're collecting to propagate their Looker dashboard properly. So our clients are coming to us often and saying, hey, I could either go and beg for resources from engineering, beg for resources from analytics, have them pay for an ETL vendor, spool up their own cron jobs, spool up their own orchestration, their own servers, or I can just get all this data from Rockerbox, which is cleaned, pre-constructed, includes data sets I don't get access to via API, all my spend data, all the measurement on top of it. It's a great value prop for the customers who leverage us more from our data capacity. But yeah, we're really a data company through and through. It's the vast majority of our work. The measurement kind of comes after that, to be frank.
And we can think of you in that sense like a middleware platform, in the sense that merchants can plumb your data out of your warehouse into their BI tool,
Yep.
into their CDP platform. If they've got a CDP platform, they can plumb it out to a marketing automation platform. If they're using marketing automation, they can plumb this data almost anywhere, whether it's Tableau or Power BI or whatever it is that they're using for business intelligence, forecasting, things like media buying and informing that. I guess they use this in a variety of ways. But then I guess in some respects, if the merchant isn't that advanced yet, if they're a little bit less mature on the curve of being able to do this deep BI and being able to get really solid CLV numbers, and including cost to service and pulling that in from the customer service platforms, and being able to really get some proper LTV numbers into the business based on churn and based on a whole bunch of other factors. If they're not that mature yet, because a lot of the brands, they're not quite there yet. They're just, they either don't even know the systems that they need to be pulling all this data from yet, or they wouldn't know how to run the business intelligence and run the right reports because maybe they don't have a data scientist or they don't have a data engineer working on their team, or even a data analyst. They might even have a data analyst on their team. Maybe they have someone that knows analytics quite well, maybe just Google Analytics or something like that, but maybe nothing more. And so it sounds to me like what you're saying is, we not only provide the plumbing, we not only provide the warehousing, but we also provide the analytics layer over the top of that with some quote unquote, I guess, more out of the box models, out of the box reports, where we can meet our clients where they are, even if they're not that data informed today. We can help them on that journey of becoming more data informed tomorrow.
So this is actually one of the most fun parts about what we do. We work with brands from launch to IPO and beyond. And you're completely right. A company that's just launching, frankly, they don't need a Rockerbox. They need a third-party measurement product at that point. Let's be frank here. But once they start getting the ball rolling a little bit, maybe they'll have on Facebook and Google, they're going to need something for measurement. And we have solutions that can work with companies at that size and scale. You're right. They don't have an analytics function. They don't have any extra engineering resources. It's the founders that are still pulling the plug, pulling the pipes and running the media and all the ad platforms. And that's perfectly okay. Our core platform is amazing in terms of the visualizations that it has, the sort of reporting that it has, the flexibility to look at things from a first touch, last touch, even way, our data-driven modeling approach to look at customer journeys. We want to make predefined analyses available in our platform that we see all of our customers leveraging, and that's available out of the box with Rockerbox. As those companies scale, we call it like the data maturity curve of a brand. Eventually, they start getting to a world where they live in Google Sheets. That's the next stage. And then eventually, as they scale, they get to a world where they work in a data warehouse. You're not getting there overnight. And we've seen this firsthand. Like, we've worked with clients. We worked with Warby Parker 2 years before they went public to today. We worked with Solo Stoves for years before they went public to today. We have a lot of clients that aren't public, and that's perfectly fine as well. But I think what makes Rockerbox so special personally is that I know any of these brands as they scale, we can scale with them because we've done it. We've done it hundreds of times. Everything has to start from 0 to 1. So we love to work with those early brands as well when we're the right solution for them. A lot of times we're hearing those early companies and we say, at this stage, rely on platform numbers, rely on Google Analytics. And by the way, we have a free tier as well, which gives a lot of that information, especially because we want to help out those earlier brands. But again, we want to be there as they scale. So it's really fun to see these companies scale and us to be able to scale with them.
Yeah, that's a great segue into, I guess, how you charge. Now, you're a SaaS platform. You do have that free tier. I see that here. You don't even have to put in a credit card, get instant access, and you can get data aggregation for popular platforms, i.e. social and search. You can get Google Sheets, reporting templates, live spend trends, dashboard. So getting that first inkling of data visualization feels like it's free, which feels like the free tier feels pretty feature rich. Of course, it doesn't have everything, and it doesn't have marketing paths to getting to all the way through to conversion, which of course is then when we move into the scale end of the platform, which is more, I guess, the enterprise class end of the platform. And you don't have the pricing in there for scale. How do you guys charge for the platform? Is it on a modularized basis, or is it a fixed fee for everything in the platform? And then what do you base your billing on, and what would your average customer pay for the platform?
Yeah, sure. We have 3 tiers. We have free. You gave a great description of it. We have starter. That's focused on Shopify customers. That's fully self-serve, month to month. Put a credit card in. You're up and running with Rockerbox. What you get with starter that you don't get with free is our first-party pixel on your website. And that's where we start to construct a full path to conversion. Super
tracking, authentication, all that stuff.
Exactly. Beyond that, it's modular, as you called out, because frankly, I don't want to sell somebody a functionality that they don't need. What does that look like from a modularity perspective? It means adding in retail when you need it. You don't need that until you have retail stores. Adding in mobile app integration when you need it. Adding in data warehousing when you need it. Adding in offline channels like linear TV, OT, CTV, direct mail when you need it. Multiple geographies, all of that sort of enterprise level functionality, it's available when you need it. And again, I think that's what's so valuable about Rockerbox is that as you scale as a merchant, each stage in your life cycle, we can be there with you. Our pricing is just based off ad spend. So you can see that with our starter tier on the website. There's actually a live little widget, so you can see exactly what it costs. And that's decreasing. So the more and more you spend, the lower and lower we pay for you as you scale. Our add-ons are generally a fixed cost, but again, we work with our clients to find solutions that are right for them pricing-wise. Particularly given the economy these days, we want to make sure that we're doing what's right for our customers, our prospects. I'm in this for the long haul. I've been at this for 10 years. I'm not going anywhere. And I think the next 10 years are actually going to be significantly more bright for the measurement market overall. Just really want to make sure we're doing right by our customers.
Yeah, look, you've got skin in the game effectively. The more success you help your customers find, then the more you make, which is your goals are aligned, right? You want to help them be more successful so that they ultimately end up spending more money. And it's a virtuous cycle is, I guess, the goal here. Now, just for everybody who's listening and or watching, just to give them some sense of what they'd be paying if they're on Shopify, I'm just looking at your slider here. And just to give somebody an idea, if they were spending $20,000 a month in ad spend today, they'd be spending about $300 a month on your platform. Now, that to me seems pretty bloody reasonable. It seems almost too cheap. Now, I'm not going to say that because I don't want you to raise your prices, but it seems like an extremely reasonable and fair expectation. If you're spending $20,000 a month on ads and your ROAS is a 4, somewhere between a 2 and a 4, then we can imagine what kind of money they'd be making in terms of additional revenue. And you're really taking a minuscule portion of that enhanced revenue that you're helping to drive for their business, assuming that they're profitable. And that's up to them to make sure that they're profitable. That's not your responsibility. So I guess it feels very much like you are very closely aligned with your customers on helping them be successful. Now, do you have any vision in the business? And this is a two-part question. Do you have any vision in the business of creating a seamless plugin for anything other than Shopify today? So BigCommerce, VTEX, Magento, Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Are there any other platforms on your radar today that you want to make it as easy as installing an app and bang, they're up and running tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely. Just generally getting up and running with a measurement product has historically been one of the biggest barriers to working with, particularly a company like Rockerbox that can scale all the way up to the enterprise. So we invest a ton of time and energy and money and resources in terms of making that more seamless. Shopify is the one that we've made really nice. It's very nice and easy to get up and running with Shopify, so we're really proud about that one. We've invested in things like a Rockerbox Google GTM template, which automates or makes it a lot simpler for us to get up and running with GTM with our customers. We have clients that are live on pretty much every e-commerce platform and also custom e-commerce platforms as well. We definitely have plans to expand beyond Shopify from a one-click perspective, but our GTM template's been a really big win for a lot of our clients. And getting that approved by Google takes a lot of time. I'm proud about that one.
Very well done. And if we were to look out, say, 12, 18 months, is there anything that's on your radar that you go, we don't do this today, but I think we should be doing this, and therefore we're going to be adding this over the next 12 to 18 months to our platform? Or is there anything that your customers are crying out for today that you don't do, that you're saying, this is now almost a PLG motion, and we're getting inquiries for this, so we're going to add this to our platform? Is there anything that's really top of mind for you right now?
I actually think if you look back for the past 3 months, it really shows the type of product that we build. And I don't see much of that changing for the next, let's say, 12, 18 months. And let's go backwards. We launched media mix modeling for Shopify, a completely plug and play, self-service way for companies to get up and running for media mix modeling. This goes again to our thesis of we don't want to push any one specific type of measurement. We want to give you access to all types of measurement. So looking forward, I could see us filling in the gaps with any other types of measurement that we're not strong with. We're definitely going to be investing there. We launched the strategic partnership with Snapchat. They give us access to view-through data that builds on top of, again, what we have with Reddit, with Pinterest, with companies like Roku, et cetera. And we have more of those in the pipe. I can't really talk about those yet, but more great partnerships that get access to the fact that somebody viewed an ad on large social networks without clicking on it. The last thing we launched was goals and recommendations. We launched that 2 weeks ago. It's a great product. Basically, it takes the output from our media mix offering, i.e., how much budget should I spend on Google next month, and takes that very broad answer, i.e., double the spend, and makes it very tactical. Where should you actually do it? And we automatically recommend that. We tell you exactly which campaign, which ad group, which ad ID to spend money in, to cut money in, how much to spend, increase, how much to decrease. So what does that mean to me? It means us making marketers' job a lot simpler. So again, looking out for 12, 18 months, investing in different measurement methodologies, investing in strategic partnerships that gives us access to data that's not available off the shelf, and just making it a lot simpler for clients to log into Rockerbox and be told what to do. Yeah, you should increase this prospecting campaign by 24% to hit this budget that finance is giving you. The last area I talk about is finance is starting to involve much more in marketing than ever. So we're building a lot of tools to help finance teams take data from marketing and make really good budgeting, forecasting plans on top of that. We have some exciting things to announce there in the back half there.
Super exciting. And two areas that I'm seeing brands, if not already spending in these areas, they're definitely starting to talk about it and think about it a lot more, is Amazon ads. Not just listing on Amazon, but actually Amazon ads themselves. It's the third largest ad network now in the United States after Google and Meta, and also retail media. And we're seeing both of those just absolutely explode as marketing channels for brands. And I'm just wondering, do you guys do anything with Amazon ads today in terms of tracking the spend there, et cetera, and performance of those, and retail media? Are those two areas that you're seeing grow and are important to you guys?
Amazon, yeah, we're investing a lot there. We actually have legacy ways. So, for instance, yes, we are able to ingest spend data from Amazon. We're upgrading that pretty significantly in the coming months, both spend data and conversion data. Retail media, I'm actually curious to hear more from you on that. It comes up less with our customers than I would have thought. I don't know why. I wonder if it's because, listen, I generally think a good channel has three things. It has scale, it has measurability, and it's relatively easy to make creative for. I think the lack of any of those three makes it so that somebody's less apt to invest in retail channel. And I'm just not seeing as much interest in retail media, at least with our kind of smaller tier customers, than I would have expected. I'm curious if you're hearing more. I'd love to learn about that, but it's not an immediate focus of ours at Rockerbox.
Yeah, I guess retail media oftentimes today is engaged with by brands through programmatic platforms. So they don't necessarily know, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to advertise through Walmart retail media. I'm going to go and advertise through XYZ retail media platform, because they're accessing those platforms de facto through their programmatic platform. Maybe it's a Criteo, whatever it might be. And so as a result of that, they don't necessarily know that they're going to specifically those retail media placements. And I think it's still an open question from my perspective, whether programmatic and retail media is as successful as I think some of the retail media sellers would love us to believe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably very successful for the retail media position owners. So if you're a Walmart and you're getting millions of hits a month to your website, you're able to sell positions on there, regardless of whether someone comes and buys through your website or not. Just the fact that you have advertising for other third parties on your website means you've got a revenue stream that you wouldn't otherwise have, and it's a way to monetize your traffic in ways you couldn't do it any other way. But I don't know how, from a user perspective, just from a human perspective, I can't remember. I don't think I've ever in my entire life, and I spend a lot of money online. I do most of my shopping online. I don't think I've ever clicked a banner ad and actually bought something because of it. I don't think I may have, but I don't think I have.
Yeah, I don't think we're normal though, because we talk and think about these things all day long. So I realize anything we say about advertising is not, I hope, how normal people think. I hope they don't think about ads as much as we do. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. I think it's partially also like our clients are less maybe CPG heavy than some other verticals that we're in. And I feel like a lot of CPG is selling in the Targets, the Walmarts. And you're right, it's a good call that like you can already access the inventory. And we have clients buying through the Trade Desk, through Criteo, through MediaMath, you name your DSP, we can facilitate that. So maybe there's a world where we're actually already tracking it. I'm just not as aware, to be honest with you. But like we've not made any retail media specific investments to date. I'm also interested to see how it plays out in terms of kind of the closed loop attribution that they all pitch. We know the actual email address of the person who converted, so you can actually connect the dots there. It'll be interesting to see how willing they are to share some of that data.
And how hard has it been for you to get traction in places like Europe with GDPR and some of the really strict data privacy restrictions in California, for example, which has modeled their data privacy on the GDPR. We have Shopify, for example, and many other SaaS platforms that are really struggling to get any traction in those markets because they don't have hosting and infrastructure in those countries. And so therefore, it's a risk for brands in those countries to be on Shopify, for example, because their data isn't in Europe. And so there's this real battle between privacy and, I guess, functionality and usability and targeting. There's this whole tension out there, this tug of war between those two things. Is your primary market the United States, where those privacy laws are a little bit more lax than the GDPR, Or have you found ways to comply with that and have infrastructure in Europe where you can actually court those European clients as well?
Our primary customer base is definitely based out of the US. Having said that, we had some very early customers outside of the US, which forced us to adapt earlier than we normally would have in our life cycle to a bunch of rules, be it around GDPR compliance, privacy overall. But it's a never-ending battle. Listen, there was a ruling just this past week around Meta and their
1.3 billion, I think they got fined.
Exactly, right? And if you look at the 10Ks of most publicly traded companies, they all call that out as a risk. So in a way, I think it's almost like I think it's a risk that many companies are just accepting, and that's almost a cost of doing business because re-architecting your entire systems to a world where you need to know that all of your data is hosted where it needs to be is going to be a huge change for many of these companies. That being said, I also think this comes to the world where you might just have a future where different regions end up needing to use different types of measurement. If you're not able to track user level data, then you're not going to be looking at survey responses. You're not going to be looking at path to conversion, but you're going to be using some sort of aggregate data. Okay, it'll be interesting to see what the impact is that is on the companies in those regions. If you suddenly have less ways to measure your marketing and you're operating with one arm behind your back, are you able to compete with companies that don't have that? I have no idea how it's going to play out, but it'll be interesting for sure.
Wow, exciting times, exciting times. And if people want to learn more about your platform, should they just go to rockerbox.com? That's Rockerbox, spelled just exactly like it sounds.com, and find out more there, get a demo, or would you prefer that they reach out to you on LinkedIn, Ron Jacobson on LinkedIn, or how do you like people to get a hold of you?
Listen, rockerbox.com is a great place to go. By all means, feel free to get a demo. We have a great team of sellers. I'm available too, ron at rockerbox.com. So by all means, shoot me an email any day. I try to be pretty responsive. Also on LinkedIn, I've been posting more and more there. So by all means, I'm looking for engagement. I get some really good people who basically call me out when I'm saying things that are not correct, and I enjoy that. If I'm posting things on LinkedIn you disagree with, please leave a comment and let me know.
Love it. I think that's how we met. So LinkedIn is obviously working for you. So well played there. Now we're coming to the end of our time together, and I super appreciate you're clearly super smart. You come from a software engineering background, so that doesn't surprise me at all. So look, your insights and your knowledge and your experience in this area over a decade is just super useful. I've learned a ton from you already in just our short time together, and I'm sure our audience has too. But now I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you, and I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal, it could be professional, it could be anything you like. So I'd love to turn the microphone over to you, Ron Jacobson from Rockerbox. What is your question for me today?
What do you miss the most about the United States?
Wow, it's been so long since I lived there. It's been basically 30 years since I've lived in the United States. I think what I miss about the US is probably the quite forward, quite transparent nature of Americans. When we look at Kiwis, when we look at, probably not so much, the Aussies are actually probably more like Americans in that regard, but especially Kiwis, they play their cards pretty close to their chest. They're really concerned. They don't really want to go out to offend. They're not out there to offend people. Americans are more like, I don't give a shit whether I offend people. I'm gonna speak my truth, and it is what it is, and we'll just let the chips fall where they may. And so you always know, I guess what I would say is that Americans tend to wear their heart on their sleeve a bit more, and that's a really cool thing because you always know where you stand. And I also love the fact that in America, and again, there's probably lots of people that would disagree with this, I love the labor laws in that employers don't have to act like they like you, even if they don't, and even if they're planning to get rid of you. In New Zealand, for example, the labor laws are skewed so heavily in favor of the employee that you've got to go through this really well-defined process. You can't just walk in and say, you're not working out, you're out of here. You've got to go through this really lengthy legal process and cross a lot of T's and dot a lot of I's. And some people would say we shouldn't be able to just fire people, but actually, as an employee myself, and I have been in the past, I'm not now, but having been an employee in the past, if I'm not working out or I'm just not getting along with the boss or whatever it might be, I'd rather them to be able to be honest with me and just come up to me and say, Jace, look, we both tried our best. This just isn't working out. Let's go our separate ways. I'd rather them be able to be honest with me than almost lie to my face and pretend like they're happy that I'm there, but yet behind the scenes, they're engineering my demise, but they just have to jump through all these legal hoops to get there. You know, it's a double-edged sword in some respects. The American way doesn't work for every country in the world and every society, but I do that level of transparency and that level of flexibility in business in the United States, that businesses can get lean if they need to get lean, if they're under massive financial pressure and they need to cut 25% of their staff to get to default alive, they can do that. Whereas in other countries, that would be much harder to do. And look, like I said, that doesn't work for everybody, but for me, that level of honesty, almost brutal level of honesty across the culture in every way, shape, and form, that's something I think that's to be admired, to be honest.
Listen, it was not the response I was expecting, but it's definitely an interesting take, I got to say. I actually think America needs to get better at this stuff. I feel like at times we're not transparent enough and we're not open enough. And maybe it's changed in the past 5, 10, 20 years. I have no idea. But interesting to hear that from your perspective. We're still at least leaders at that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and I think in terms of putting on a show, I think it's difficult to compete with America in terms of from a conference perspective, from the glitz, the glamour, the veneer of entertainment. It's difficult to beat the States on that. And when I've gone to big tech conferences in Las Vegas, for example, and things like that, it's more like a rock concert than it is a conference. And that's pretty. There is an element that makes that really fun and exciting and engaging in ways that other countries just don't. They're a little bit more under the radar. They're a little bit more low key, and that's just not the American way. And that brings a lot of fun and it brings a lot of entertainment to the content.
Listen, America at its best does a great job at enabling people, either native born or people who come here, to come and build, and hopefully to succeed. And we don't always do as well as I wish we did there, but when it works out, it's unbelievable, right? You go look at some of the biggest companies in Silicon Valley, founded by folks who came to the country, are being run by folks who came to the country. And there's something special about it for sure.
Absolutely. Listen, Ron, I've super enjoyed this conversation. The time has absolutely flown by. Can't wait to get you back on it again soon to talk more about these ongoing developments and ongoing integrations of Rockerbox with new and emerging platforms. And then also as the death of third-party cookies really becomes real, so to see how your platform is adapted and see how some of these other measurement models and attribution models in your platform start to really come to the fore in place of cookies. So again, thank you for sharing your time with me, and I can't wait to chat again, mate.
Same here, Jason. Really appreciate the time. It's been fun.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.